Let's talk about something that happened in 1978 that changed professional golf forever. And I promise you, once you hear the story, you're going to look at a bunch of 50-year-old men in pleated pants just a little bit differently. Today, we are diving into one of the most brilliantly disguised money grabs in the history of professional sports. We're talking about the Senior PGA Tour, now officially called the PGA Tour Champions, and the fascinating, slightly scandalous, genuinely entertaining story of how it all came to be. And look, I'm going to be straight with you. When I was a kid, I watched my favorite golfers dominate the regular tour. I'm talking icons, the kind of guys who were legends. And then one day, I'd flip on the TV and there they were, still playing golf, cashing checks, except now they were doing it on what was called the Senior Tour. And I thought to myself, okay, cool. So any really good golfer who hits a certain age can get on this tour. Maybe some late bloomer who figured out the game at 45 could suddenly compete at a high level and get the shot. Like a second chance league for old guys who got really good late in life. Yeah, no, it does not work like that at all. So here's the actual origin story, and it starts not in a boardroom, but on a golf course in Austin, Texas in 1978. There was a tournament called the Legends of Golf, a two-man better ball event at Onion Creek Country Club. And it featured two-man teams made up of some of the biggest names in golf who had aged out of being truly competitive on the regular tour. The drama in 1979 was absolutely electric. The team of Julius Boros and Roberto De Vincenzo beat Tommy Bolt and Art Wall Jr. on the sixth extra playoff hole in front of a nationally televised audience. People went absolutely nuts, and the suits watching at home thought, wait a minute. People actually want to watch these older legends compete? There's money in this? Cue the light bulbs and the dollar signs and the raining money. Cue what can only be described as the most beloved senior citizen hustle since your grandfather convinced the casino he was only 68. The Senior PGA Tour was formally established in 1980 with a landmark meeting on January 16th of that year, making it official. The first official event was the Atlantic City Senior International, held in June of 1980. A guy named Don January won it, and from those humble beginnings, the whole thing exploded. Now here's the part that surprised me when I was a kid. I genuinely thought that this was an open competition for any golfer over a certain age who was good enough to qualify, like a talent-based meritocracy. Some journeyman club pro who figured out the secret to golf at 52, step right up, come and play, collect some money. Wrong. Very, very, very wrong. The field for the PGA Tour Champions is essentially a closed club, a velvet rope VIP section for guys who already made it on the regular PGA Tour. Think of it as the golf equivalent of a private members-only club, which, given that we're talking about golf, fits perfectly. So, who gets in automatically? If you won on the PGA Tour, you've got a path. Hall of Famers, past champions, top earners on the all-time money list, all of these carry exemptions. You're basically riding the coattails of your younger, more athletic self. Honestly, I have a lot of respect for her. I would love to have some sort of runway in life. I would totally do the same thing. That said, this is where it gets a little more democratic. There is a qualifying tournament. Any professional golfer, or even a highly skilled amateur who is 50 years of age or older and has a handicap index of 0.8 or better can enter. The top 5 finishers at the final stage earn fully exempt cards. The next group down gets conditional status. So, technically, yes, there is a path for an outsider, but the fields in the actual tour events are dominated by guys with PGA Tour pedigree. The qualifying path exists, but it's brutal, and the tour cards you earn that way put you at the bottom of the pecking order. You're basically crashing a party that was specifically thrown for the cool kids. Now, was this thing built partly as a revenue stream for established players who could no longer compete at the highest level on the regular tour? Absolutely. Did the legends of golf, people like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus, understand exactly what they were doing when they got behind this idea? Absolutely. Arnold Palmer turned 50 right as the tour launched in 1980 and was one of the marquee names that made the whole thing commercially viable. The tour was literally built on the appeal of guys like Palmer. TV audiences would tune in just to watch Arnie swing a club. He went on to win 10 events on the Senior Tour, including 5 senior majors. Jack Nicklaus joined when he turned 50 in 1990 and proceeded to win 10 tournaments, including 8 senior majors, while playing a limited schedule, mind you. Jack only showed up occasionally, dominated, and then just went home. That's not a career move. That's a drop-in visit from a golf god. And Julius Boros, one of the guys who helped spark the whole thing with the legends of golf, was actually considered a major driving force behind the formal creation of the Senior Tour. The man who helped start the party also happened to be one of the guests of honor. Convenient. What I'm saying is, the greatest golfers in the world looked at the landscape, realized their competitive window on the regular tour was closing, and essentially built themselves a second arena to keep playing and getting paid for years afterwards. If you think that sounds like a genius power move, you're right. If you think that sounds like a cash grab, you're right. Those things are not mutually exclusive. And here's the question. If you had the opportunity to build yourself a second career in your 50s, doing the thing that you were already famous for, but with less pressure, smaller fields, and still decent prize money, would you do it? I know I would. So let's talk about what the tour actually looks like now. The current name is the PGA Tour Champions. It dropped senior from the title in 2002 because apparently calling it the Senior Tour was bad for marketing. Guys, if you're 55 years old and you're offended by the word senior, I have some gentle news for you about what your knees sound like. Listen, they rebranded it to the Champions Tour for a while and then went to the current PGA Tour Champions name in 2015. Still the same guys, still the same vibes, just with better branding. Here's the format breakdown because it's genuinely different from the regular tour. Most events are 54 holes, 3 rounds, instead of the standard 72-hole, 4-round format on the PGA Tour. And here's the kicker. Most regular events have no cut. You tee it up, you play all 3 rounds, you collect a check, all 81 players finish. Now, the 5 senior major championships do play 72 holes with a cut, like real tournaments. But the everyday events, no cut. Everyone goes home with a paycheck, which, and I say this with deep affection, is an arrangement that many middle-aged men outside of professional golf would absolutely kill for. Show up, do your thing, get paid regardless of how it goes. That is the dream. That's my dream, at least. The total prize money across the tour is over $51 million annual. Individual purses average around $2 million per event. That is not nothing. That is by any measure a whole lot of something. And the season-ending Charles Schwab Cup, the points race, pays out over $2 million more to the top performers. Now let's talk about the family business because this is one of my favorite parts of the whole thing. On the PGA Tour Champions, it is completely common, almost a tradition, for players to use their sons, daughters, or other family members as their caddies. You've got guys in the 50s out there with their kids walking the bag. It's legitimately wholesome and also a little bit hilarious if you think about it. These are world-class athletes, veteran professionals, titans of the sport. The most famous example, Jack Nicklaus used his son Jack at the 1986 Masters, his legendary final major win at 46. And there's that iconic photo of the two of them reading a green together. Dude, that is the stuff of legends. On the Champions Tour, with a more relaxed overall atmosphere, you can see this family dynamic play out regularly. It's one of the genuinely charming things about the tour. These guys have been competing their whole lives, and now they get to share a little piece of that with their kids. It's cute. It's also funny to imagine a 27-year-old kid telling his Hall of Fame father that he's reading the break wrong. Some people might think that's weird. I actually think that probably happens at home all the time. Now, what is it actually like to attend one of these events? Because this is where things get genuinely interesting from the fan perspective. The crowds are smaller, much smaller. The atmosphere is more relaxed. The fields are smaller, typically around 78 to 81 players. You can actually get close to these legends of the game in ways that you absolutely cannot at a regular PGA Tour event, where you're one of tens of thousands of spectators pressed right up against the rope line, praying for a glimpse of Scotty Scheffler's bulging biceps. At a Champions Tour event, you can practically have a conversation. You can watch your hero from 10 feet away. You can actually see these guys' faces when they're lining up a putt. It's a much more intimate, old-school sports experience. Think of it like going to a minor league baseball game versus a packed MLB stadium. Except in this case, the minor league guys are the legends that you knew as a kid. Tickets are significantly cheaper, much more affordable than the regular PGA Tour events. PGA Tour events can run you $50 to $100 just for basic grounds access on a weekday, and that's for the run-of-the-mill event, not a major. Champions Tour events are much more accessible. The venues are less crowded, the experience is more personal, and for a certain type of golf fan, specifically the type of golf fan who grew up watching these guys in their prime, who remembers exactly where they were when Jack won his 6 Masters in '86, who actually cares about Chichi Rodriguez or Lee Trevino or Tom Watson, attending a Champions Tour event is basically a greatest hits concert. You are not there for the cutting-edge new songs. You're there for the power ballads that you know, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that. Let me hit you up with this question. Have you ever actually been to a PGA Tour Champions event? And if so, what was the vibe like there? So here's what I think is the most fascinating thing of all of this. When you step back and look at the big picture, the Senior PGA Tour, whatever you want to call it, was essentially invented because television made golf stars out of guys like Arnold Palmer and Jack Nicklaus. These weren't just athletes, these were celebs, these were legends. And when the legends age out of their prime, the audience just doesn't disappear. The fans who grew up watching Palmer and Nicklaus, Player, Trevino, and Watson like me, those fans are still there in the early 1980s, still watching golf, still wanting to see those names on a leaderboard. The tour's founders understood something that a lot of sports leagues miss. Nostalgia has a tremendous commercial value. Sponsors will pay to put their name on a tournament featuring Palmer, even if Palmer is 54 years old. TV networks will broadcast it. Fans will tune in. The whole ecosystem works as long as the names are big enough. And they were back then. Boy, were they big. The tour grew from a couple events in 1980 to 26 tournaments by 1984. The total purse hit $10 million within just a few years of creation. By the time Gary Player joined in 1985 and Lee Trevino debuted in 1990, you had arguably one of the most star-studded lineups of golf competing every week, just on a slightly more age-appropriate schedule. Is it a cash grab? Yeah. Is it also a genuinely entertaining, fan-friendly product built on real achievements of real legends? Yeah. Sometimes the cash grab and the good idea are the same thing. It's the great American tradition. You think the founding fathers weren't monetizing something? John Hancock signature pens? Anyway, the bottom line is this. The PGA Tour Champions exist because some very smart, very famous golfers looked at the end of their competitive primes and thought, why does it have to end? And then they built something that now has paid out over a half century of tournament golf. Something that gave generations of fans one more chance to watch their heroes compete. Something that let guys who gave their entire lives to the game keep doing it, keep walking the fairways, keep reading the greens, keep cashing the checks for decades past when most athletes hang it up. And honestly, that's kind of beautiful and slightly mercenary, but in an American kind of way. But that's golf.